Hello everyone. So, today's lecture is going to be about body fluids and circulation. This is the first part of the lecture on this topic. So, the first question that you can possibly ask is why do we need a circulatory system? So, as you know that we have a circulatory system in our body through which blood flows, and this is very important for the following reason. It is important to maintain a proper environment for the functioning of the tissues. Now, how does the circulatory system actually do this? The circulatory system does this through the following two methods: by supplying tissues with nutrients. You know, the food that we eat has to be converted and broken down into the constituents, which are the nutrients for all the cells. For example, carbohydrate, lipids and proteins, and also the cells need oxygen, a constant supply of oxygen. So, this constant supply of oxygen and other various necessary substances, for example, hormones and other proteins which need to be supplied to the cells, are all carried through the blood. The other very important and critical function that is performed by the blood is the taking away of the waste that is created as a result of the metabolic processes that happen inside the cell all the time. So, the metabolic waste consists of carbon dioxide and other breakdown products of the nutrients that are consumed by the cells, and these have to be removed in a regular manner. Otherwise, the buildup of these toxic substances is going to lead to harmful effects on the cells. So, then let us see how does the body do this. So, there is a conduit through which this oxygen, nutrients and waste products are carried. These are called special fluids in the body. So, in human body, the special fluids that are used to distribute these substances are of two kinds. They are blood, which you all have heard of, and there might be something else which you have not really heard of, that is called lymph. So, we are going to today talk about both lymph and blood and try to understand their functions in the circulatory system. So, first we will talk about blood, and you may have already heard this before, but the blood consists of a fluid component which is about 55% of the total volume, and the rest of it comprises of cells which are the 45% of the total volume. So, in very quick way, if we list the constituents of the blood, we can see that the plasma is comprised of largely water, various proteins, many minerals and nutrients and clotting factors. What about the cells? What kind of cells are there in the blood? So, in the blood you can see that there are erythrocytes which are called red blood cells or RBCs in short. Then there are the leukocytes which are also known as white blood cells or WBCs in short. And lastly, there are the thrombocytes which are also known as platelets. So, today we are going to learn about each of these constituents of blood, namely the plasma as well as each of the cell types that we have listed here, and we will understand what is the function of each and every component of the blood. So, first let us begin with plasma. So, plasma is what remains if you remove all the cellular components or the formed components of the blood. So, if you are able to put a little bit of your blood in a machine called a centrifuge which spins it at a very high speed, what remains at the bottom is the cells, and what is remaining at the top is a clear liquid which is called as the plasma. Now, the plasma just does not comprise of liquid, it also has some proteins and other substances dissolved in it, which I am going to describe now. So, this is a straw colored liquid and it is comprised of about 90 to 92% of water, and then it has a lot of proteins which make up about 6 to 8% of the total volume. So, this is mainly made up of fibrinogen, it is made up of globulin and albumin. Fibrinogen is needed for blood clotting. We will discuss this in the later part of this lecture today. Globulin is a very important component of certain molecules that you may have heard of, which are known as antibodies. So, antibodies are a type of globulins called immunoglobulins. So, globulins are therefore needed for defense mechanism of the body. Then the third category of proteins that are present in the plasma are known as albumins. These albumins are needed to maintain the osmotic balance in the body fluids. So, now let us look at the next component, which is minerals. So, among the minerals that are present in the plasma, the very important ones are sodium ions, calcium ions, magnesium ions, bicarbonate ions and chloride ions. So, other than this, the plasma also contains various nutrient factors. For example, the breakdown products of the food that we eat, which is glucose, the amino acids, which are the constituents of the proteins that are part of our diet, and lastly the lipids, which are the components of the fat that is present in the food that we eat. And then last but not the very least, there are these factors which are known as clotting factors. Whenever there is a break in the blood vessel or in the circulatory system, the blood will tend to flow out of that broken end of the blood vessel. But to prevent loss of blood, there is a process which is known as clotting. So, this clotting produces a clot that acts like a plug to block the blood vessel. So, this it requires a lot of factors to be activated for this clot to happen. So, these factors are known as the clotting factors and they are also normally present in the plasma of the blood. Now, moving on to the cells. So, this is an image that shows you all the major components of the cells that are present within the blood. So, you can see here that there are the RBCs, which are the red blood cells. There are the platelets, which are also known as the thrombocytes, and then you have a whole lot of cells which are known as the white blood cells together. But the white blood cells are of various kinds. So, we have eosinophils, we have basophils, we have neutrophils, and we also have monocytes and lymphocytes, which are of two kinds, T lymphocytes and B lymphocytes. So, now what we are going to do is one by one we will go and look at what each of these cells are required for in the blood and what their normal function is. So, we will start with first the RBCs, but before I begin that, I want to introduce you to a concept. This concept is about where do these blood cells come from. So, the blood cells come from the bone marrow. The bone marrow has hematopoietic stem cells, which are also in short form known as HSCs. So, these hematopoietic stem cells look somewhat like this. So, stem cells are those that are capable of self renewal, meaning when they divide they can produce more cells that are exactly copies of themselves. So, the hematopoietic stem cell just does that.